The scene unfolded before Carl's eyes as Angel stood there, panic etched on her face. She thinks her husband is dead, he relayed, the gravity of the moment weighing heavily on him. Questions swirled in his mind, but the horror of the situation demanded action. Meanwhile, the police were wrestling with the fragmented details of the case. The detectives had already uncovered discrepancies in Angel's story, noting her previous fabrications. What about Milton? They pressed, knowing he had been killed just hours earlier. The question loomed, did Angel have a hand in this? Conversations with Lewis Recorder revealed a tangled web of planning and betrayal. The detectives speculated that Angel's affair with Isaac Milton, a physical therapist, might have played a crucial role. If she cooperated with the investigation, perhaps she could escape a lifetime behind bars, allowing her to see her children again. Just before 2:00 a.m. a woman, clad only in a t-shirt, rang the doorbell at Carl's home, blood streaming from a gash on her head. The urgency of her situation was palpable as she sought refuge from the terror that had just unfolded. Carl Feit, a concerned neighbor, understood the urgency of the situation. He dialed 911, his voice steady yet filled with concern. "My name is Carl Feit. My next-door neighbor just came and knocked on my door. When I opened it, the frantic voice of Angel Sawyer pierced the silence of the night. She was crying, desperately claiming that her husband was dead. A man had invaded their home, brandishing a gun. Blood trickled down her face, remnants of a brutal assault." The 911 operator pressed for clarity, questioning if this was a domestic dispute, but Angel's response was chilling. This was no family quarrel. It was an act of violence committed by an intruder. The 911 operator pressed for more information. "Another guy broke into the house?" she asked, trying to piece together the chaos. "Yes, another guy," Angel confirmed, her voice trembling. "He killed my husband. Where's the other guy right now?" The operator inquired, urgency in her tone. "I have no idea where he is," Angel replied, fear gripping her. "For your safety, stay in the house and lock your door," the operator instructed, knowing that the situation had escalated beyond comprehension. Join us as we delve into a burglary gone wrong, a twisted tale that spanned from the coast of North Carolina to Oregon and back again. What transpired on that sweltering August night in Elizabeth City will haunt those involved forever. It was a tragic intersection of lives, a pawnbroker and a prowler. Before we delve deeper into this heart-wrenching story, we extend our deepest sympathies to the family and loved ones of Milton Sawyer Jr., a husband, father, stepfather, and a cherished member of the community. Our narrative transports us to a quaint yet historic town on the North Carolina coast, situated just south of Norfolk, Virginia. This sleepy, blue-collar town, where life can be both idyllic and challenging, hides secrets beneath its charming surface. While visitors are drawn to the picturesque harbor and quaint shops, a darker undercurrent of addiction and crime lingers. The struggle against hard drugs and the cycle of petty crimes grip the community, leaving its mark on many families. Milton Sawyer and his wife, Angel, were among those trying to carve out a good life. They had a comfortable home, blending their lives and families into one, raising 7 children together. With 2 daughters poised to leave for college, they appeared to be living the American dream. Together, they owned a store that dealt in antiques and collectibles, offering cash for items that others wished to let go. Milton was known for his ability to purchase items of questionable origins, often making deals without the necessary paperwork. While this gray area kept the business afloat, it also raised questions about legality and safety. Had Milton's choices caught up with him on that fateful night? Angel described the assailant as wearing all black, with his head completely covered by a mask. In her frantic state, she could only recall the chaos of his shouting and cursing, a harrowing image that would forever linger in her mind. The operator pressed for details. "Was he white or black?" she asked. "He was all dressed in black," Angel responded, her voice trembling as she tried to grasp the reality of the nightmare unfolding around her. "He robbed their house to steal money," she added, the weight of her words sinking in. The operator needed clarity. How many people were involved? "Just one person," Angel confirmed, her voice strained. "He didn't have anyone with him?" The operator probed further. "No, just one person," she reiterated, her fear palpable. "Were you both tied up?" The operator continued, trying to piece together the events. "They tied us up in the bathroom," Angel admitted, her eyes wide with the trauma of the experience. "I still have some of the tape on my hands," she revealed, a haunting reminder of the chaos that had erupted in her home. In the chaos of the emergency, the 911 operator instructed Angel to leave the tape on her arm untouched. Preserving any potential evidence was of the utmost importance. The operator pressed for more details. Did he suspect that your husband shot you, or do you think he's injured for another reason? Angel's response was chilling. No, my husband is the cause of the injury, and he is the one who has been injured. Despair flooded her voice as she declared, he won't wake up. Her desperation was palpable as she struggled to rouse him. Was your husband beaten as well? The operator asked, seeking clarity in the confusion. The night of the tragedy, police arrived at the scene with urgency. They cordoned off the area and initiated a search for the perpetrator. Meanwhile, Angel was rushed to a local hospital for treatment, while Milton's lifeless body lay discovered in the bathroom of their home. The home bore the marks of a violent struggle, indicating a burglary gone awry. Cash, gold, and jewelry items frequently generated by the family business were the apparent targets. Milton and Angel were well-known figures within their community, making the crime all the more shocking. In the aftermath, the community rallied around Angel, offering their support. The following morning, on August 3rd, she arrived to provide a statement to investigators, desperately trying to piece together the events of the previous night. The trauma was still etched on her face. Investigators approached Angel with care, understanding the delicate nature of her situation. They faced the daunting challenge of extracting details while remaining sensitive to her grief. How have you been? Have you been coping? They gently inquired. Expressing their condolences, they said, I'm sorry for your loss. We know this is incredibly difficult, but we are doing everything we can. Angel acknowledged the murmurings surrounding her personal life. Yes, I know you've spoken to some people, and there are rumors about me. The investigators explained, we are receiving an overwhelming amount of information about everyone who ever shopped at the store. It's almost unbelievable. Some of it is true, but would you be willing to talk to us for a little while today? In a bid to clarify their relationship, Angel asserted, anyone who knows us understands that we had a good marriage. Yes, we had our issues, but what couple doesn't? She reflected on the early struggles of their marriage. During our first year, I learned he had been with 2 other women after we got engaged. It was tough, but we managed to work through it. Angel recalled Milton's jealousy, a constant presence in their lives. He would often say to me, you're so attractive, you could have anyone you want. I always reassured him that I only wanted him. Angel Sawyer shared that her relationship with Milton had changed dramatically. They no longer ventured out together, as people often mistook her for his daughter instead of his wife. She noted that much of the external chatter surrounding them was merely rumor. In a moment of reflection, she recounted a recent car accident. She had attended physical therapy and could recall the precise dates and times of her appointments. However, when her appointment was unexpectedly canceled, she forwarded the voice message to Milton. It was then he realized she was receiving therapy alongside a man he knew, stirring a sense of unease in their relationship. As the tension in the room thickened, a sense of unease washed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling, so he took to Facebook, searching for answers. In a revealing exchange, he shared a screenshot of the man's pictures, declaring, he's attractive. I don't care about this guy. Yet, beneath that bravado lay turmoil, as anger flared every time she left for her therapy sessions. Eventually, the pressure became unbearable. She made a painful choice, saying, I'd rather be in physical pain than make you suffer if it was that important to you that I not go to physical therapy. Angel would later elaborate on the emotional weight of that decision. She revealed to investigators that she had attended just 2 physical therapy sessions. The therapist's name, Isaac Milton, had sparked jealousy and pain, fueled by hurtful rumors. Despite the turmoil, she reassured the investigators that the couple had reconciled. Just the night before the tragedy, they had shopped together for their daughter's college supplies. During that outing, Milton received a call from Dylan. Dylan was with Robin and others when they purchased a TV that was clearly stolen. He recalled, you can see it in the truck if you want, but I was basically upset. I felt bad about it. I was crying the whole way home from Harvey's store, he admitted. When I got out of the car, he sent me a text saying he needed to start taking my advice, that he was sorry and really loves me. Dylan was his name, he added, his voice filled with regret. The investigators had received a tip from a jailhouse informant who claimed to have heard that Dylan Clark Hayes Stetler was directly involved in the robbery and murder. At just 24 years old, Dylan had a troubling history of petty crimes in the area. Suspicions surrounding him only grew as he was known for a string of burglaries and robberies. His addiction to heroin made him a target, and he was apprehended after being found in possession of cocaine. Robin Carter, an 18-year-old heroin addict and Dylan's girlfriend, was also brought in for questioning. As the detectives pressed her, they asked, "What happened?" Robin explained that her parents had called the police because they needed to speak to her. The detectives probed further, inquiring, "Is this related to the incident?" "What about Milton?" Robin's response came heavy with sorrow. She uttered the devastating truth. "No, he was killed last night." "Did you talk to him?" She shook her head no. Robin recounted her last moments with Milton, revealing that the police had picked her up before she could reach him. "What about at home?" she was asked. Her fingers danced over her phone screen, recalling how Milton had texted her, claiming he was in a meeting and would call back soon. The detective's tone shifted as he confronted her with the evidence. "The reason you are here now is because we found cocaine on you, right?" Robin's response was resigned. "I guess so." "That's what they told me." "I don't know anything about Milton," she insisted, her voice trembling. "I only found out that Josh Greasy had called her." He told her what happened. Robin recalled getting home, where she relayed the news to her mother. "My dad has been friends with me for a long time," she explained. "I've dealt with him for a long time." My mom spoke to Wendy, who worked with her. "So that's how I was finding out everything about what happened. I guess I broke into his house," Robin continued, her eyes darting as she recounted the details. "I heard from Italian James and James that he had been killed at a shop. It was all over the internet." Robin's voice lowered as she shared, "But then I heard there was more to it. I don't know much, but whatever happened last night was not good. We saw where many of Hardy's belongings were discarded, including the little TV we saw last night." "Yeah, I've seen that happen all the time," she continued. "It's been going on for a long time, dude. He even gave me an extra $10 last night." I was shocked when I saw the TV. "It's Robin's," he revealed. "Benjamin had it for a long time." I said, "Oh shit, it wasn't worth anything." That's why he was nice to me, $10 for the TV, $20 altogether. He then shared an alibi, stating that Robin had dropped him off at his grandmother's house around 8:30 that night. He lived there with her, along with his father, uncle, and brother. "I slept on the living room floor that night while my uncle was on the couch," he explained. "They could all vouch for my whereabouts. I called Robin several times from the house phone, talking with her throughout the night." Dylan insisted he barely knew Milton and had never met him at his house. "I know you've done some robberies," he admitted, acknowledging the detective's suspicions. "So your name keeps coming up. Did you do this?" The detectives pressed. "You know how it is with the court system," he replied, his nerves palpable. "I feel like you're better off if you come clean," the detective urged. Dylan responded with conviction. "I don't do that. I might be addicted to some things, but I'm not a murderer." In a chilling rationalization, the suspect noted that being a robber comes with its own risks. If a mistake occurs during a robbery, he argued, it is not the robber's fault. He urged the need to take responsibility for one's actions. In a vehement denial, Dylan insisted he had no involvement in the crime. He recalled spending the night at Robin's parents' house, adamantly asserting, "I did not do that." He became visibly agitated, emphasizing that he had noticed people suggesting otherwise. He further clarified, "I had nothing to do with it. I only learned about it today." His voice trembled as he recounted a conversation with Josh Greasy at Food Lion, where he discovered the troubling news. As Dylan detailed his last visit to Milton's store, investigators became increasingly intrigued by the nature of their business relationship from the past week. He revealed that he had sold a pair of Air Jordans, some designer shoes, and a large knife to Milton. "How much did you get for all of that?" The officers probed. "Did he give you a receipt, or did you just take the TV and 20 books when you met him at Hardy's?" They pressed further, curious about the lack of documentation. "Did you have any arguments?" They inquired. Robin would later corroborate Dylan's account, confirming they had arrived at the mountain around 8:30 to pick up the TV and met Milton at Hardy's at that same hour. Dylan recounted his movements post-meeting. "I went to 2 N Street, then back to my house. I had to return home because my mom insisted I come back." He described how he had dropped by the mall before returning home, noting the time precisely, as his daughter was still awake. He painted a picture of a good relationship between himself and Milton. The investigators, intrigued, asked Robin who she thought could be responsible for the crime. "When you mentioned Dylan, did you ever really believe he could do something like that?" Robin hesitated before responding. "It's kind of a thing, right? He's had home invasions and robberies before, I know. But when Dylan cares about someone, he truly cares. He loves Milton," she revealed, her voice breaking as she recalled Dylan's emotional reaction. It was a troubling pattern. Previous home invasions and robberies had marked their lives, but Dylan's feelings ran deep. When he loved fiercely. His affection for Milton was palpable, and tears streamed down his face as he grappled with the situation. Dylan and Robin were the last to have contact with Milton and Angel before the tragic incident. However, investigators quickly cleared the young couple. Their alibis were straightforward and easily verified. Yet, despite the clarity, whispers and rumors swirled through the community, leading to a deluge of tips and stories flooding the sheriff's office. Weeks passed without significant leads until a call came from an unexpected source, Oregon, nearly 3,000 miles away. A man claimed to have been visited by someone who confessed to killing Milton. An investigator and a member of the State Bureau of Investigation wasted no time, boarding a flight to follow this tantalizing lead. They would soon meet a man known as Louis. The journey to rural Reedsport, Oregon, was not taken lightly. Louis, a former youth pastor, had crucial information pertaining to the web of events surrounding Milton and Angel Sawyer. Louis spoke of a visitor whose name had surfaced repeatedly in connection with the Sawyers' ordeal. The man at the center of the rumors was Isaac Melcher, the physical therapist rumored to have engaged in an affair with Angel. Louis recounted his history with Isaac. "Isaac was a tough kid back in high school," he began. "I spent a lot of time with him. I even flew back to the East Coast for his wedding 17 years ago, alongside 4 other classmates." He reminisced about that day, noting it was the last time they had seen each other. Yet, they managed to keep in touch through Facebook and messages over the years. Louis recalled that last contact, a fleeting moment last summer, when he hoped to reconnect during a visit to the East Coast. It was a bittersweet moment when Isaac reached out, marking the first time in nearly 2 decades that they had communicated directly. Over the years, there had been sporadic exchanges through text messages and emails. "The last time I reached out was during the previous summer while I was on the East Coast. I had hoped that if he was nearby, we could finally meet and catch up. When he sent me that message, it marked the first time in 17 years that I had any contact with him." On a fateful Thursday, the 9th, just a day after a birthday celebration, a seemingly innocuous text arrived. It simply read, "Hey." This was Louis recounting a message from Isaac. "I'm in town. I'd like to visit with you. Do you have any time?" Isaac continued, "I'm in Oregon visiting my mom, and I was hoping maybe I could come by for a short visit." He added, "I leave Saturday afternoon." The message didn't reach me immediately, but when I finally responded at 4:20, I expressed my desire to see him, hoping our schedules would align. He then inquired, "Should I come by the house?" I replied, "It just depends on what time." Isaac was uncertain. The following morning, at 8:15, he texted again, 10 o'clock at work. I confirmed, "Yeah." He arrived promptly at 10:00, and we met at Louis's house. The atmosphere was heavy, and Isaac appeared burdened, as if he carried the weight of a dark secret. Upon meeting, I noticed he was physically exhausted, visibly beaten down and depressed. He avoided making eye contact, offering only a half-hearted smile. We retreated to the backyard, where I expected light-hearted conversations about his children. But instead he said, "Well, I kind of need some advice." This was the moment he began to reveal the depths of his turmoil. "I think I'm going to lose everything," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I leaned in, the gravity of his words sinking in as he shared his story, one that would spiral into darkness. Isaac's confession unraveled slowly, revealing an affair with Angel, which had begun at the physical therapy office. He detailed how the relationship had developed and the inevitable moment when Milton discovered the truth. As he spoke, his shame and fear became palpable. The weight of his betrayal pressed down on him, and he recounted a confrontation at the office that had made the affair increasingly difficult to hide. Then, in a chilling turn, Isaac shared that they began plotting Milton's demise. I distinctly remember his words. They needed to get rid of the old man. Plans were hastily drawn, but Isaac's recounting revealed a shocking reality. What they had intended to do was far from simple. Isaac described the chaos that ensued. When it came time to act, he found himself overwhelmed by Milton's size and strength, rendering their plans futile. Even in this moment of desperation, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him. After a tense pause, he finally articulated the unthinkable. He had gone to the house, somehow gaining entry, and stood in the hallway leading to the bedroom for 10 excruciating minutes, gathering the courage to carry out his intentions. During that time, Angel emerged from the bedroom, innocently seeking a snack. It was then that Isaac and Angel exchanged hushed whispers, solidifying their dark plan. With resolve, Isaac marched in. He had not met Milton before this encounter, yet the stakes were higher than any casual meeting. In a shocking admission, Isaac revealed, "I put a gun to the man's head and tied him up." But the plan unraveled quickly. He described how the sheer size of the man thwarted his intentions. "I dragged him into the bathroom," he confessed, a chilling calmness in his voice. "In my words, I killed him." Curiosity piqued, I asked how he had accomplished such a horrific act. It was the only moment he met my gaze. With a chilling revelation, he disclosed, "No, I choked him. I got him in a chokehold from behind and squeezed his neck until he died." In that moment, the investigators had finally found their man. The investigation was shrouded in uncertainty. Authorities had only second-hand information, lacking a concrete confession from Isaac. Yet, with Lewis's cooperation, they hoped to coax an admission from Isaac, or at least gather enough evidence to bring him in. They arranged for Lewis to reconnect with Isaac. Over the course of 3 phone calls, crucial connections emerged. In their first conversation, Isaac inquired whether Lewis had downloaded a new app to his phone. Lewis urged Isaac to turn himself in, expressing the toll the situation had taken on him. "This has consumed my thoughts since we talked," he admitted, pressing Isaac to consider his options. In a desperate plea, Louis urged Isaac to surrender, to escape the heavy burden of guilt that weighed on him. He confided, "This has consumed my thoughts since we last spoke, and you know—" "I don't know, Isaac," Louis pressed. "If you can convince yourself that your time is limited, maybe you should just go in, tell your story, and ask for leniency." Isaac expressed understanding of the situation, acknowledging, "I know what you're saying, and I have considered it." He then inquired about Angel. "Have you been in contact with her at all?" "What day did I see you?" "That was Friday," he recalled. "I had contacted her a couple of days before that, and since then, to be honest with you." "Right now, we are just trying," Isaac added, his heart still tethered to Angel. "But my heart is still very much tied to her." As the weight of grief settled in, a painful realization dawned on him. He had convinced himself that he could make things work with Angel, the woman he loved. Now that dream had shattered. It was time to return across the country, not just to apprehend Isaac, but also to confront Angel. Isaac was taken into custody, believing he was merely providing additional information. Initially, he hesitated to waive his Miranda rights. But soon, he signed the document allowing police to question him, fully aware that he could retract his consent at any moment. The investigation had been fluid, with new details emerging almost daily. Initially, whispers of an affair between Isaac and Angel had circulated, but now, those rumors had transformed into confirmed facts. As the pieces began to fit together, the investigators learned about various forms of communication: Facebook records, messenger conversations, and encrypted messages. Recent developments had illuminated the case significantly. The app allowed for secure communication without leaving a trace. However, the investigators knew that even if the conversations were encrypted, the speaker's setting could reveal everything during their next call. "Every conversation you have with Louis is recorded," the investigators emphasized. "We are aware of the planning, the affair, and how it was meant to look like an overdose." "We also know about the phone you gave to Angel," the investigators warned. "Your situation could worsen if Angel implicates you during her interview." "There have been discussions about the death penalty," they continued, "though it hasn't been enforced in North Carolina for over a decade. Even if sentenced to death, it often equates to a life sentence. You need to focus on how to help yourself in this case," they advised, hoping to steer him toward cooperation. In a desperate plea for cooperation, the investigator laid out a chilling possibility. If the suspect provided a statement, there was a chance to avoid a life sentence, allowing him the opportunity to see his children before his time was up. The investigator revealed that the plan, meticulously orchestrated by Isaac Milton and his friend Louis, had been in the works for months. Conversations with Angel suggested she would likely be willing to cooperate, regardless of the pressure applied to her during their discussions. The investigator's tone shifted as he addressed Isaac directly. If he chose to remain silent, and both men had said all they needed to say, it would be time to conclude the conversation. With a firm nod, he signaled a transition to another part of the building. Under the guise of examining jewelry, Angel was brought in to look at items that may have been stolen from her home the night of the tragic killing. The investigator initially intended to display some pieces of jewelry to her, hoping to elicit a reaction that could shed light on the case. The investigators had intended to discuss other leads, but the morning's events had shifted their focus. Isaac has been arrested, and he has revealed a lot about you, they informed her, the weight of their words heavy with implication. About you, they emphasized. That's what we need to clarify. He mentioned your intentions to leave Milton. Let's confront all of that head on. The tension in the room thickened as Angel braced herself for the unraveling of her story. Investigators shifted the focus of their inquiry. We need to discuss your recent Facebook Messenger interactions, they stated, revealing that records had started to surface, indicating ongoing communication between Angel and Isaac. The investigators highlighted that the exchanges were not merely one-sided. They had uncovered evidence that suggested a deeper connection existed, one that Angel desperately attempted to deny. Despite her denials, the investigators continued to recover deleted texts, each revealing more about her relationship with Isaac. The pressure mounted as she was confronted with the truth. In a moment of vulnerability, she expressed her fear. I'm terrified of him because he's unstable, she pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of her admission. You should also be terrified of him. Yet the investigators pressed on, reminding her of the horror she had witnessed. But you saw him kill your husband, they insisted. Angel hesitated, uncertainty clouding her mind. I do not know if it was him or not, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. With her story shifting to accommodate the investigators' revelations, she recalled the initial plan to incapacitate Milton with pills and vodka. I want to put you in the best light, she insisted, trying to navigate the treacherous waters of her narrative. The investigators, unwavering, pressed further. You were there. You know he did it without a doubt. Their conviction was palpable, and Angel began to feel the walls closing in around her. The detective's voice was steady, yet filled with urgency. This man came into your house. He was obsessed with you, they asserted, painting a picture of a love twisted by desperation. He would do anything to be with you, including murder. But I didn't want to be with him, she protested. Yet they pressed, if he is this obsessed, what will you do? You can't just tell him no. The stakes were higher than ever, and the investigators reminded her of the danger she faced. Understand this, they urged. If you are afraid of him, and you knew about everything he's done, this is your moment to speak out. The urgency of their words hung in the air, a truth she could no longer ignore. Downstairs, a man remained locked in handcuffs. He was not a threat at that moment, yet the gravity of the situation pressed heavily on Angel. Investigators urged her to protect herself by revealing the truth of what had transpired. Despite everything, she insisted that her heart still belonged to Milton. Angel's thoughts raced back to the night of the murder. When Isaac approached Milton, she had pleaded with him to stop, declaring her love for her husband. But those desperate pleas were met with violence as Isaac pressed a gun to her head, barking orders to silence her. In a moment of sheer terror, she recalled the chilling exchange. I will never be with you, she had shouted defiantly, fear coursing through her veins. I hate you. Yet, in her heart, she was petrified of him, a fear that had lingered for months, driving her to confide in Milton. As she recounted the events, Angel felt the weight of her fear. I am terrified of him, she admitted, her voice trembling. The investigators, relentless in their pursuit of the truth, pressed deeper into her relationship with Isaac, revealing they were aware that their encounters extended beyond mere physicality. She maintained her innocence, claiming it had been months since she had last seen him. But they steered the conversation back to that fateful night, questioning the details of the encounter that had changed everything. When asked about opening the door, she vehemently denied the version of events presented to her. No, that is a lie, she exclaimed, frustration bubbling to the surface. I opened the door, and he began screaming, cursing. I didn't even know who he was. In a rush of memories, she clarified, it happened so fast. I didn't even register who he was when he came in. The chaos of that night blurred the lines of reality, leaving her grasping for clarity amid the turmoil. With the door pushed open, Isaac's rage filled the room. She was engulfed by confusion and fear, struggling to make sense of the nightmare unfolding before her. Cloaked entirely in black, from his shoes to his hooded mask, the intruder stormed into the room. His voice pierced the air as he screamed, "Get down on the floor!" The terror was palpable, a moment suspended in darkness. Complying with his demands, the victim felt the weight of his words. "I know you're the #1 gold buyer in the city," he declared, laying bare his intentions. The threat was clear. He wanted all the money, your jewelry and everything else. As the investigators began to dissect her account, pointing out inconsistencies, they allowed her to continue, eager to uncover the truth buried within her statements. She recalled a conversation, a chilling directive concerning what to tell the police. Someone broke in and stole the items, he instructed, a narrative she would later echo. With fervor, she insisted, everything I said up to that point is true. She even revealed a letter she'd penned in her Bible, vowing to get the girls to school before disclosing the events that had unfolded. Yet, her pleas for innocence fell on skeptical ears. Why should we believe you? They pressed, noting that she had spun multiple tales, while Isaac, her accomplice, had maintained a consistent account of the night's events. You're right, she conceded. I wouldn't blame you for not believing me. She confessed to an affair, her voice laden with regret, admitting her ignorance of Isaac's true nature. I don't blame you for doubting me, she continued, recalling the messages from Isaac that hinted at a darker intent, murdering her husband and seeking her assistance in that sinister plot. Why didn't you call the police? They pressed. I didn't think it would really happen, she replied, attempting to justify her inaction, her voice trembling under the scrutiny. We're receiving your messages in pieces, they informed her. Understand that during your exchanges with him, he was likely communicating through Messenger and by phone. About leaving pills out, she insisted, I didn't do it though. The investigators paused, considering her words. I'm not saying you did, one reassured her, but do I think that there was a plan? She finally admitted, the weight of her confession heavy. Whether or not you took it seriously, at some point you did not convince him to not murder your husband. I tried, she claimed. I thought I had. But she was unaware of Isaac's arrival that fateful night. After minutes of relentless questioning, the investigators stepped out, giving Angel a brief respite to grapple with the gravity of her situation. When they returned, a local investigator made one last personal appeal, urging her to recount the night once more. This time, her tone shifted, revealing the weight of her burden. A timeline of her evening unfolded, from a dinner outing to a casual gathering with Dylan and his girlfriend, leading to an ordinary night spent binge-watching Game of Thrones, with her husband blissfully unaware of the storm that was approaching. I opened the door, and he came in, yelling and screaming, she recounted, her voice trembling as she recalled the horror. He told me to lay on the ground, insisting I've got a shirt on. Lay down over here. I heard some wrestling, she continued, her eyes wide with fear. Then he commanded me to lay down so he could take me up. She was huddled against the tub, crying out in desperation. I was begging him to stop, she remembered, the memory haunting her. He heard the television and questioned, Are any of the kids home? I kill him. Is there anybody upstairs? He yelled, the violence in his voice echoing in her mind. She persisted in her pleas, screaming for him to leave her husband alone, insisting he shouldn't be hurt. That's when he put the gun to my face, she recalled, her voice barely above a whisper. He asked, Don't you know who this is? I said no, and he revealed himself, It's me. I pleaded, Please stop. I didn't want to be with you, she confessed, desperation creeping into her words. I made it clear by not answering the phone. I made it clear that I wasn't going to participate in any of this. My husband and I were working things out, she explained, the tension palpable. He asked me where the jewelry was. He took a pillowcase and gathered the jewelry, along with all the money and the key. In a disturbing recollection, a witness recalled the chilling moment when Isaac approached, asking if she was okay. He ominously stated that he would have to hit her, to which she responded with resignation, insisting he should leave. Do whatever you have to do, she replied, unaware of the darkness that loomed. Isaac's voice dripped with menace as he declared, If you don't stick to the story, I will come back for you. You can see that I'm capable of murder. I will return to murder you and your children. I did this for you, he insisted repeatedly. But she countered, You didn't do it for me. I have no interest in being with you. That's why I didn't reach for the phone when you bought it and why I stopped communicating with you. I haven't seen you outside of this. She recounted the fear that gripped her as he took her hands and restrained her. There was nothing intimate between them, just a moment of terror in the aisles of Walmart. He forced her hands behind her back, and she sensed his intent, wondering how far he would go to manipulate her. He commanded her to lay still, returning to clean up the traces of his intrusion, making sure to erase any evidence that linked him to the crime. His actions were calculated as he returned to retrieve a dropped phone, a seemingly mundane object now tainted with the weight of his choices. Yet beneath the surface of the chaos, a realization dawned on her. She knew who was responsible, and as the moments passed, she felt a flicker of hope that perhaps things would turn out all right. In a moment of desperation, she pushed against him, managing to free one hand. She was still bound, lying flat on the floor, but the instinct for survival surged within her. She was positioned near the bed where Milton had once been, a silent witness to the horror that unfolded. Overcome by grief and fear, she had done nothing to assist Isaac in his actions. She was lost in her own turmoil, crying and bleeding, utterly terrified by the nightmare that had enveloped her. However, she felt the weight of suspicion upon her. I did not conspire, she insisted, understanding how her inaction painted a damning picture. The absence of an immediate police call only served to deepen the cloud of doubt surrounding her. When asked about their prior conversations regarding pills, she confessed that she had merely been playing along, unsure of how serious he was about his intentions. His breakdown had been sudden, a frantic response to her silence. I don't know what came over me, he had exclaimed, revealing the chaotic turmoil within him, a storm that had been brewing beneath the surface. I lost it, he reiterated, his words laced with confusion and regret. You weren't talking to me, and I didn't understand why. I got this for you so you can communicate, he had said, as if presenting a gift, oblivious to the horror that had ensued. Her disinterest had been clear, yet he failed to grasp the gravity of his actions. His parting words echoed with desperation. You didn't answer my messages. I came here, and I don't know what came over me. I freaked out. The chilling confession lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the events that transpired. The narrative had finally emerged, and now the legal proceedings would take center stage. Isaac Melcher, faced with the weight of his actions, entered into a plea deal, ultimately receiving a sentence of second-degree murder. His life would be confined for a minimum of 20 years, up to a maximum of 25 years, for the brutal killing of Milton Sawyer. In stark contrast, Angel Sawyer, unwilling to accept a plea, opted for a trial, facing serious charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The atmosphere in the courtroom was palpable as Angel prepared to confront the charges against her. There was an air of tension, a sense that the truth would soon be laid bare for all to see. After 4 grueling days in court, with Angel opting not to take the stand, the jury returned with a verdict that would forever alter her life. Found guilty on both counts, she faced a life sentence for first-degree murder alongside a lengthy sentence for conspiracy. Though she would later file an appeal, the judgment stood firm, sealing her fate.